Today on r/AskReddit, what's a small act of kindness you were once shown that you'll never forget? So once in high school, I ate at a Mexican restaurant and unknowingly threw away my car keys on my tray. When I was done eating, I went and asked a worker if he had cleared them off the table, and he said no, but that he had just taken the trash out to the dumpster. I remember going outside and calling my dad to ask if there was a spare, and he told me no. So I went back inside feeling humiliated and about to ask if I could look through the dumpster, only to see that this man had already dug through the dumpster on my behalf and ended up finding my keys for me. He just went above and beyond, and to this day I'm so grateful for his help. Absolute legend. Customer service to the extreme. This story had me shaking my head and looking at my screen like I'm stupid. I can honestly say now that I've been stunned by kindness. These people work terrible jobs. He absolutely did not have to do that. But he did. Now I don't care how much he makes. That right there is a genuine boss. I feel like thanking him on your behalf. Thank you for sharing the story. I broke my foot and was trying to limp my way across campus with crutches in the pouring rain. Someone ran over with their umbrella and walked across campus with me so I wouldn't get rained on. This reminds me of a time in 3rd grade where I had a really messed up leg after an injury resulting in internal bleeding caused by my hemophilia. I was limping across the school grounds when a much older student helped me by picking me up and carrying me all the way to the other side. Alternator died while I was driving home from university. Engine died as I exited the freeway in the middle of the night in a not so pleasant part of town in the days before cell phones. As I'm pushing my car out of the intersection, a guy in a truck comes up and offers to push my car to my neighborhood a good 3 miles away. He does so, and I'm pulling into my neighborhood. He simply gives a wave and drives off into the night. I never even had a chance to thank him. I was in New York City taking a lunch break at a job I absolutely hated. I was sitting eating alone at a MCDS, and after about 15 minutes this man in his 40s or 50s, I'm a 28 years old male at the time, goes up to me and says something like, "Hey man, you look really sad. Things will get better," and just shook my hand. Takes a lot for one adult man to offer that up to another strange man. Really cheered me up. Edit. Wow. Woke up to this blowing up. Most upvoted comment yet, and thanks for the golden awards. Moments like that can be so powerful. I had a friend invite me out to dinner once, and when I arrived, she just hugged me. I broke down and cried. I'd been struggling with depression for so long and nobody close to me had noticed. But this couple had met on holiday and seen a few times since had seen something and took the initiative to ask, "Are you okay?" without having to ask. That put a smile on my face. That's just so nice. I was around 19 years old in my first year of community college. My dad has lost his job and my mom was supported my entire family. We were struggling for a while. I remember being in my night class one day starving. I figured there'd be no dinner, so I told myself I'll go straight to bed when I get home and not think about being hungry. When I got home after class, there was a giant box of Costco pizza on the kitchen counter. Apparently one of our neighbors had bought it for us because my dad fixed a part of her fence a few months back. I think it stuck with me because A, I was so ducking hungry, and B, the chances of her bringing food that night of all nights was insane to me. It might sound so stupid, but I'll never forget it. I bet that pizza tasted so good too. I literally coasted into a gas station out of gas on my motorcycle. Then realized I didn't have my wallet. Some lady saw me patting all my pockets and that I was upset and offered to fill up my tank. I only let her put $5 in, which on a bike is a lot, but it meant so much to me. After my dad passed away, my depression kicked into overdrive. I went to the doctor and got a prescription for antidepressants. While I was picking up my prescription, I started crying. When I apologized to the pharmacist for crying like a child, the pharmacist said, "You don't have to apologize. You recognize you have a problem and you are trying to fix it. That is a brave thing." It changed my perspective on treating my mental illness. I'm proud of you for getting the help you needed. Hope everything is going well for you. I was 9 years old. Waiting for the school bus in Wisconsin winter. I had a thin coat. No hat or gloves. A woman driving past saw me and stopped, giving me a blanket from the back of her car. It was a long skinny one, so she wrapped it around my head and shoulders like a big scarf. I remember thanking her, but being confused. I told her I didn't know how I would give it back when I was done borrowing it. She hugged me and said not to worry. I still have that blanket. I love that you still have the blanket. I just exploded in tears at the last sentence. I wish she could somehow find out you still have it. It would probably rock her to her core. Thank you for posting it. I took my sister who's in a wheelchair to the cinema for the first time on my own. At the end, I realized I couldn't undo the brakes and was blocking everyone. I felt like crying because I thought everyone was pissed at me. But some nice lady helped me. Then took me and my sister out. She said she once had a son who needed a wheelchair. This was long ago, but I'll never forget. Once had a son. Ouch. The time my car broke down in the middle of the night and my phone died, and I didn't know what to do. A random stranger pulled over and told me we all need a little help sometimes, and I'll never forget her words as she helped me jumpstart my car. I did that once for a lady that broke down on the highway. She had started walking from her car in high heels and I pulled over to help her and said it's okay, I'm a girl too. Turned out she had to pee so bad and was crying about how to pee on the highway, and we had a laugh about it. I offered to take her to a bathroom, but she said she was okay now lol. I think about her often and hope she's having a good day. Today you. Tomorrow me. Choking to death on a roadside and a nice guy stopped and did the Heimlich on me. Thanks bro. Edit. More details for those asking. Leaving a park with my son. Put a hard candy in my mouth. Said something to my son. Candy slipped down my throat. Immediately knew I was ducked. Couldn't get air. Threw the car in park. Left my son wondering WTF. Started flagging down people on street. Guy and his girl stopped. Shite started to go dark. Made universal choking sign. Guy understood. I could tell he wasn't sure what to do. So I guided his hands to correct position. After 4 or so heaves the candy popped out. I gave him a big hug and we went our ways. Scariest moment of my life. Not dying per se, but dying in front of my son. Holy shite. Choking is one of my worst fears. You were so lucky that guy knew what to do. Neighbors asked to borrow my truck. Next day Mr. Neighbor called and said he was getting new tires for his Suburban and I could have his old ones. Get to tire shop and they put on brand new Goodyear tires. I asked what happened to the old tires I was supposed to receive. Shop owner said the old tires was just a story to get me in the shop. Mr. Neighbor bought me a full set of new tires instead of the old tires he said I could have. I guess they can borrow the truck anytime after that. D. When I was in high school, a guy stole my iPod out of my backpack. I didn't think I'd ever get it back. Maybe a week later, a guy I never really talked to came up to me and told me he bought my iPod from that guy and then gave it back to me. He didn't even ask for anything in return. Guess he upgraded to a stolen Zune. I transferred in the middle of first grade to a school that did ice cream Fridays, where you'd pay like 50 or 75 for whatever kind, and then you'd watch an educational video in the classroom. I was unaware of this when the first Friday rolled around, so I didn't have any change and neither did the kid next to me. Normally there would be a few who didn't get ice cream, but this day we were the only two. So the teacher called the both of us aside and gave us each the change required to have our ice cream. I think the biggest thing was that she didn't do it in front of the other kids, so it looked like we had brought the money all along. It was incredibly kind of her. She was a wonderful teacher outside of that as well. TLDR. I and another student didn't have money for ice cream the day everyone else did. The teacher bought us ice cream, so we wouldn't be left out. Edit. I'm going to try to reach out to the school to find the teacher and send her an email, if possible, as a lot of you suggested. Now that's going above and beyond the call of duty. It was very awesome of her. When I was at school, I helped a girl out when she was having a meltdown in the bathroom. A few weeks later she pretended to be my friend who had been waiting to meet me when I was being followed home by two guys. We never saw each other outside of those two occasions, but I still think about her and hope she's doing okay somewhere out there. Have you tried to see if you could find her? It would be an amazing story. My gym teacher purchased me lunch in 3rd grade after I dropped mine. I'm 34 years old and still remember this. 1. In middle school, my softball team lost a match. A girl from the other team walked over to me and handed me a blue pouch. At first, I couldn't open it. So I said, "Thank you," and walked with my parents to my car. After examining it for a while, I was able to open it and pull out this really cute softball necklace. I still have it to this day. 2. I had to get a spinal fusion surgery for my scoliosis. During my week-long recovery, one of the nurses asked me what my favorite candy was out of the blue. I told her, chocolate. During her next shift, she walked in with a huge tin full of chocolate and a cute stuffed sloth. I still have the sloth. She also put up balloons and a happy birthday sign for my sister who was visiting me. 3. Another nurse cried when I left and hugged me. I was literally astounded by their kindness towards me. I felt really bad that they had to take care of me all the time during my stay, but they really made me feel welcome. Also, my surgery was successful and I'm basically pain-free. This makes me feel so old, but when I used to play softball and would travel to the big regional or national tournaments, we'd get these enamel pins made of something that represented our team or city or whatever really, and trade them with other teams. I loved it. It was so sweet to see these girls from across the US and sometimes beyond collecting these pins and learning about new places. I also remember showing these pins to some of my school friends who did not play softball and they were way less than impressed, lol. At work I was complaining about heartburn once. I was still pretty new to the job. Didn't really have any work friends. Felt like an outsider. My life outside of work was pretty shite as well. The bartender on shift overheard me and ran to a nearby coffee shop to get me a chocolate milk. It definitely made the heartburn go away, but it was such a needlessly kind act. I don't think I'll ever forget it. 2 years later we're still friends, and she is definitely one of the kindest people I've ever met. When I was young, 19, I lost my wallet and someone used my license to rack up tickets. It was pretty obvious once courts looked at the location of the tickets and what vehicle was used. The signature that it wasn't me. I had to go to around 3 courts clearing it up. The 3rd judge was the only one with a problem. He said I had failures to appear since the tickets were ignored. I explained what was happening and how I've been dealing with this, and I came in as soon as I was made aware of the issue. He wanted to put me in jail because he didn't trust I'd be back. He wouldn't look at my paperwork because it was an arraignment. He would only look at it during the trial date. I didn't know what to do, but I had the name of the public defender memorized. I asked if I could talk with her first. He called her in and said, "This young man seems to know you." I quickly explained what was happening and showed her my evidence. She told the judge that if he didn't release me to come back, she'd pay my bail out of her own pocket. He scorned me but released me. I just had to return the next month during the trial date. I was 19 then. 39 now. Let there blossom on planet Earth 1,000 public defenders with hearts of gold like this one. Great story. Thanks for sharing. Moved from a city to the country. I bought a large metal wine rack at a yard sale without thinking of how I would get it home. As I stood outside my car measuring, knowing damn well it wouldn't fit, an older man came up to me. He asked if I needed help getting it home and offered to follow me in his truck. I thought, okay, I'm getting robbed. But it was only $40 and I couldn't get it home anyways. The older man followed me home and helped me bring it into the house. We talked for 5 minutes or so, and as he was about to leave I asked him, I just have to ask, what made you do this today? The man extended his hand to shake mine and said, just doing my good deed for the day. I was floored. I'm never moving back to the city and I see this sort of kindness all the time where I am. I recorded a homemade album with my garage band in high school and handed out a few CDs. A few weeks later my English teacher approached me with 5 pages of notes on what he liked and what I could improve on. He apparently got the CD from someone at the high school and listened to it all the way through. It was over an hour long. He didn't know I was the singer and guitar player until he asked the person who gave him the CD. He said that if I ever got a shot in a studio, I would create something amazing. Thank you to all the teachers out there who believe in their students. It makes all the difference to some of us. Your English teacher is amazing. Good for you. I worked in bridal for 6 years, which means I was berated by hormonal bridezillas nearly 5 days a week for 6 years. After one particularly awful day at work I decided to get chipotle for dinner. I was defeated and exhausted. The girl making my burrito bowl genuinely asked me how I was doing, and I nearly lost it. She was the only person to be kind to me all day. I held back tears during my entire transaction. That was about 3 years ago, and I think about her kindness often. Please be kind to retail and food workers. Once in high school I was ordering a burrito at Chipotle. The woman assembling my burrito asked if I wanted guacamole. I asked how much it cost. She said $1. I hesitated for a while, trying to decide if guacamole was worth $1 to me, and eventually said no. When she thought I wasn't looking, out of the corner of my eye I saw her add a scoop of guacamole to the burrito. She probably thought I couldn't afford the guac, which wasn't exactly the case, but it still warmed my heart. That's so sweet of her. Just asking someone how they're feeling can make such a difference. Riding my bike on a long trip through Canada. With about 50 miles to go, I had a major mechanical failure. Stuck on the side of the road in a foreign country, within 5 minutes at least 10 cars had stopped to check on me. One guy loaded my bike in the back of his truck and drove me 30 miles to the border, where I could catch a ferry back to the US. Amazing kindness and generosity toward a stranger. He just asked that I pay it forward, and to date I've helped 5 cyclists who were broken down in honor of that promise. Canadians are so nice. They don't want anything in return. Just pay it forward. When I was little I was waiting for my aunt in a supermarket. Whenever someone exited the supermarket the doors were automatic, so every time someone left I stood by the doors and pretended to magically open the doors. One person said thank you. I want to be like that person. During the single most difficult time of my life, a stranger on Reddit gifted me $500. To me, it was a fortune. I received it while at work and just broke down. It started the change of my life, and a few months later I was able to move, met my now fiancé, had my son, and found my job. I still message them once in a while to update them on my life and continue to thank them for their generosity. But I think they abandoned their account years ago. Edit. You all have inspired me to write them another message. It's been a while. And a shout out to everyone who has or wants to do something similar. I hope you understand how earth-shattering, in the best way possible, those kind of gifts can be. Well damn. Paging you / the Tredditor. I've shared this story before, but I'll never forget this small act of kindness. When I was a kid we didn't have a lot of money, so we often shopped at thrift stores. What I loved about that was that you could get 10 books for $1. So I would plant myself in front of the book section and make piles of which one I wanted to get, and then decided after I'd gone through them all. One day an older lady saw me sitting with my piles and asked if I liked to read. I told her I did and showed her a few of the books I found that I liked. She smiled and then pulled $1 out of her purse, handed it to me and said, "Promise me that you'll keep reading." I was so happy and immediately stood up and said that I would. She smiled and walked away, and I went back to my piles able to pick out an extra 10 books to take home. It was just a small act of kindness for her. But for me, having a random stranger encourage my love of reading and making me promise to never stop definitely had a lot to do with my continued love of reading. This was probably over 20 years ago. But I still think of her whenever I buy a new book. I've read this post before. I don't remember where. But I do love this story. Thanks for sharing it again. : Thanks for stopping by. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe for more dank curated content from AskReddit.